Building your personal brand as a creative founder is shockingly uncomplicated. And as somebody who's been a creative director of the past 3 years for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs, and now being the pioneer of effortless personal brands, including my own one as a case study, the entire process at a fundamental level only comprises of 3 key steps. And look, it is incredibly easy to overcomplicate the entire ordeal with all these content strategies, hooks, pillars, positioning. But the thing is, most of you don't need that type of complexity. You're solving a future problem before you've even come across the meat of what actually makes a magnetic personal brand. So get your notes out, grab a coffee, and let's go into building an effortless personal brand that takes you no longer than 8 to 10 hours a week, and the stages to build a brand of likability and expertise. I need to first break to you that founder-led content is actually way simpler than it looks. See, the space tells you to document everything, hook in the first 3 seconds, make sure you have a visual hook, a verbal hook, a text hook, make sure you use list formats, tell a story, batch your content, give value, repurpose everything, pattern interrupt in the first 3 seconds. It's all a big mess. But the problem is these are all patchwork solutions for what's to come. Most creative founders haven't gone about the initial steps of breaking down a sustainable system for them to create content, actually build their personal brand equity compounded over time. So what does this system actually look like? It's threefold. It's on ideation, it's on capture, and it's creating an improvement engine for your personal brand. Each one of these stages we're going to break down, and I need you to understand at each stage where they fit in. Because at its core, this is exactly what's going to allow you to spend less than 8 to 10 hours a week on personal branding content whilst maintaining quality, expertise, and your likability through your storytelling. So let's go on to the first stage of ideation, one of the most important pillars here. The first thing I need you to understand is that in ideation, you are at a core level creating for one person. You're creating for one dream follower. There isn't a single personal brand out there that speaks to a wide audience, at least not in a mental sense when you're speaking to the camera. I have one exact person in mind when I'm speaking to you. And this is important because you're a creative founder. You are solving very specific problems for very specific people. So you need to be able to contact them and speak with them on a level that is eye to eye and feels like a conversation. You are not here to distribute content and get views. You are trying to find your people. And that's a hard thing to accept because even after I tell clients to do this, it still takes them a while to really bring this forward. So make sure that you're actually spending the time defining the one avatar that you're actually targeting in your content and speaking to them in every aspect of the content that you create. And in spirit of my character, I like to ask the question, would you grab a coffee with them? Would you actually want to grab a coffee with them? It's such a simple framework, but if you really break it down, you have to think about this. In your content, are you showing enough character and interestingness of yourself for someone to want to grab a coffee with you? And at the same time, have you defined your avatar well enough so that you would want to grab a coffee and speak with them? It is a two-way conversation here. Honestly, set up your personal brand in that singular direction. Create a point of interest and a two-way conversation. And ironically, if you can understand all the desires and the problems of your dream follower, then you're able to target content directly to each of those problems. And that is why every great piece of content starts with you. Do you want to know? It's very rarely, hey guys, like you're speaking to a wider audience. Every part of your ideation has to speak to one dream follower. Not multiple, just one. And then once you've done that for your ideation, the next part is actually capturing the content that you're ideating on. Because, I mean, realistically, you can have as many ideas as you want. I mean, you can list them out on your phone or whatever content capture system that you have. But if you're not actually creating the content, then it just doesn't get seen by anyone. And at the same time, you have to spend so much time creating that content, time blocking an entire day out to create a month's worth of content. And then content just becomes another tick box, another KPI in running your business. It can't work that way because it diminishes the amount of creativity that you can have in expressing what you share as your personal brand. So here's what we do in Capture. The first thing I need you to understand is to catch the moment. Don't schedule it, right? The best content is actually an uncalendared event. I always emphasize the fact that the most seamless content systems are always the ones that are captured within your zone of genius, within your flow state. Get this, as creative founders, you are in a very, very unique position where you actually live very interesting lives. You're dealing with customers, your team, fulfillment, meeting new people, going about your day to day. There are so many opportunities for you to just capture what you're doing, because that's what's going to create personability in your personal brand. So the hard part is actually knowing when to bring the camera out and capture what you're doing. And I've installed this system in every personal brand that I've been involved in, because every founder is already living something quite interesting. They're doing something day to day that other people would love to watch, but then they just aren't sharing that type of moment because they're not looking for the red car. Like, if I were to give you an analogy, I want you to think of the last time you saw a red car. Okay, how many times have you seen those red cars? You probably wouldn't be able to tell me because you're not actively looking for these types of opportunities. But when you get an idea, think about capturing it as fast as you possibly can. Or if you're living in some sort of flow state, it's just way easier to capture that. See, my personal brand, especially on short form, is quite heavily tailored towards my client calls that I have, because that's when I feel like I'm in my flow state. I have a camera set to the side, I have my screen over here, and I'm literally talking to clients one-on-one, and I'm able to provide value directly to them and also clip that up in terms of content. Why? Because it shows my clear expertise without me having to try to do so, without me having to try and engineer that part of my personal brand. And it's the same thing for my personal life. When I go and meet other creators throughout my network in cafes or restaurants or anything like that, I can bring a camera around and capture the moment and also the experience of going out, doing really cool shit. Sometimes I play sports and I bring the camera out there too. It is just way, way easier as a creative founder to capture your expertise when it happens. Don't try and fabricate and storytell around it in one time-blocked scenario where you're just batching 30 videos at once. Okay, so that is ideation and capture. Then we move to the final stage, and this is the one that is pretty much my bread and butter, because we build systems around this entire thing for the clients that I run in Outliers, but it's the improvement engine. See, the improvement engine is under one pretense. Your best customers actually decide what you make, not you, them. Now, this actually goes into the pillar of monetization and creating really consistent lead flow throughout your personal brand. It is extremely common for us creative founders to think that creating more followers and growing the personal brand is the only lever that we can pull to increase the amount of consistent lead flow that we get every single month. But that's wrong. That's not building a personal brand, that's growing a social media following. See, your personal brand is just your reputation and how someone actually knows you. So the easiest way to do this is to actually capture the top 20% of your customers, the ones who are already paying you money and are clients of yours and are actively interacting with your product and asking them about their buyer's journey. What were the real triggers for them to choose you? What were the real pain points that you actually fixed for them? And what were the biggest doubts that they went through? See, your personal brand and content is essentially a pre-selling engine where you're able to speak one to many on one topic so that you don't have to do it one by one in individual DMs or individual consultations or booking demos, anything like that. It is creating a system where you're able to capture data from your best customers, break them down, and find content that you can create that actually closes the loop of the buyer's journey. At its core, that's all personal branding is, for somebody to get invested into you as a person and for you to show your expertise by getting rid of every reason in the buyer's journey not to choose you. There is already so much you have to manage, so don't overcomplicate this whole personal branding thing. Because going back to the fact that personal branding as a creative founder is shockingly uncomplicated, there is no such thing as a content strategy problem. It's only a directionless problem. If you break it down, my effortless personal brand comes down to only 3 stages. And if you want to work with me and install this system into your personal brand, feel free to book a demo call with me down below in the description. Happy building in this shockingly uncomplicated game.